Hello. Let's continue with this thing. So yesterday I got as far as getting some shots going, because you can't have a video game without shooting. It's not allowed. But what I was about to do, but I was getting late, I was getting tired, so I stopped. But what I was about to do was to sort out two shots. As the original Letteroids game from 1980, you had two shots from your ship. Then it has to kind of switch between 1 and 2. So if there are two shots, it needs to use the oldest. So I suppose what I could do is, I think I was overthinking it last night. I could just, every time you shoot, it uses either the first sprite or the second sprite. And that's it. It just needs to toggle between them. So let me see if the shooting stuff, where is it? Update shots, ship shooting. And let's see. So this is looks like I lost some work. Did I lose some work? Maybe I just undid it again. I don't know, it doesn't matter. So this point here is shot shooting, fire pressed. It's at the moment that the fire is pressed. And then what I need to do is keep track of which sprite I'm using when I fire. Yeah, I don't have that one. So ship fire count, which is just going to be, say, 0, 1 or 2, no, 0, 1 or 2, yes. So on ship shooting, what we want to do then is increment ship fire count. Increment ship fire count, and well, I just doesn't matter. Actually, it doesn't matter how many there are. I just need to. If I use a count, then I could potentially have 3 shots, so I suppose it's good. So I'll use a count and load a ship fire count and compare it with 2, and branch if carry clear, in which case it won't have reached 2. .ss3, otherwise load a immediate 0, store a ship fire count, and .ss3. I think, let me see, I'm going to try ASM mode in Emacs again. I wonder if I do this, I do .ss3, will it automatically? No, shame. Anyway, it's a little bit easier to see. Just check that that doesn't change anything. Things still work. Oh, I died. I don't seem to have any audio. Oh, let me stick it through the monitor speakers here. Right, so then I can fire, and there's a fire, and that was weird. It looked like it hit itself, and now all kinds of things have gone really, that's weird. Why would it do that? All kinds of weird corruption. Oh, I remember this. Yeah, so it looks like I lost some work from yesterday. Really doesn't matter. I don't know how I did, though. This was the memory corruption problem. Oh. Or maybe not. Hang on. Before I go around messing about with stuff. Oh yes, that's what I didn't like about it, is that if I try to put semicolon, it automatically does that, when actually what I want is to comment it out. That J is acting like he owns the screen. Yes, the J is actually, who knows? How you doing, Gareth? That's why I didn't use ASM mode. I don't know, can I do comments like this as well? I don't know, we're about to find out. Oh yeah, I can. And I can use those comments then. Hey Tony, how you doing? Coraggio, that's what we all need, isn't it, at the moment? Coraggio. When there's the threat of World War III, coraggio. When there's no electricity, coraggio. It's good to see you, Zag. I don't know whether to call you Tony or Zag anymore. It's your time to let me know. So I think, and does it disappear? Oh. Zag is better. Okay, Zag. All right, so I'm just backing track a little here. Backing track. Oh yeah. When you're nervous about singing on your own, but there's no backing track. Coraggio. I think I noticed there's a corruption that occurs just there. If oh yeah, as soon as I don't remember this problem, but when a shot disables itself, coraggio. Hey, Refly. Sorry, I didn't spot you there. How you doing? I went to see John Wick today. John Wick 4. It's exactly what you expect from a John Wick movie. Unfortunately, we were sitting quite close to a couple of audience members who were, like, I think just out of being, or may still have been, teenagers. Oh dear. Oh. Messing around with their phones and talking and all the rest of it. And, you know, I had enough. So I went like this, just to say, and the guy got mad at me. He basically said, "What's the problem?" It's like, And I didn't want to say anything. The film is going, you know. So I just sort of like look around at the theatre, you know. It's like, what do you think the problem is? When people are complete idiots, coraggio. Honestly, maybe the world's not worth saving. Hey Philip, how you doing? Hey Alessandro, good evening. Did it kick off? No. Italian figure snap. Well, if I'd gone like this, that wouldn't have worked. It wouldn't have been appropriate anyway. But but I didn't want to say anything, so I gestured. And the guy was vaping as well. So yeah, it's like feet up on the seats. It's like, yeah. And, you know, a little bit of World War III that will sort them out in no short order, I think. Yeah, it was actually, it isn't a bad movie, I guess. You just, it serves its purpose if you're in that mood, especially. Pens them in the eyes. Oh, no. I wouldn't do that. It's inappropriate use for a pen. Yeah. They wouldn't know what Kickoff 2 is if it hit them between the eyes. That could have been what would have happened if I had been anyone other than me. I expect you didn't. I imagine you didn't expect to be hit between the eyes by Kickoff 2 today, did you? Anyway, yes, there's something wrong when the shot ends its journey. When the shot ends its journey, I could have asked him for the difference, but if I had started to do that, I would have been the subject of much hate of the rest of the theatre audience. So, where was the shot? Update shot. Nobody expects the creator of Kickoff 2. I should do it. I need to do a T-shirt with that. I think that would be funny. We have syntax highlighting. Yeah, yes, we do. Actually, I forgot to check whether that would actually work with the filter that gives me the transparency. It does seem to be all right. But I do need to use C-style comments then instead of that. Missed the Kickoff 2 reference, but spent many hours with it. Well, there we are. The Kickoff 2 reference. It's just silliness. Tony was basically when I was in the cinema. There was some troublesome teenagers, double T, and Zag was saying I should have just pulled rank on them, and saying, "Don't you realise I'm the creator of Kickoff 2?" I think I might do that T-shirt. I think that would be funny. I don't know. I find it funny. I might be the only person who finds it funny. But anyway, meanwhile, back up update shots. We can see I've got corruption on the screen because of the shot. Wait, oh, do it that way. Oh, jeez. I have to remember to use C-style. I'm going to remove the call to clear shot, as I suspect that that's the thing that's causing a memory corruption. So let's try this. So there's shot, and the shot stopped, and it stopped again, and everything's fine. I think I don't see any corruption when I do that. So it's my clear shot routine that's the problem. Do I have the original kickoff source code? Yes, I do. And I have the original player manager source code as well. I still have them retrieved off floppies, archived quite some time ago. And not only that, if that was not sufficient evidence, I have a printout. The very first backup that I did of, or an early, or a backup I did of Kickoff, is the entire source code printed out, and I have it in a box. You never know, that might come in handy one day, you know, in the hypothetical world where there was some legal action. That will never happen. I reach out sometimes to lawyers about things, they just laugh at me. I mean, they don't actually laugh at me, but I know they're laughing. I can tell, you know, I'm a sensitive soul. But I actually do have a printout, and that is pretty convincing, because you can do a forensic analysis of the paper. You can see that it's, the age of it is what it is, you know. So there we are. But yeah, that's why not? Why not refly? I could do that. And it's just like every t-shirt is a different part of the source code of Kickoff 2. And so what everybody has to do is come together. If they all come together with their t-shirts, then they can have the source code of Kickoff 2. A brilliant idea. Maybe I should do that. Yes, maybe I should do many things. Maybe I should just figure out why clear shot doesn't work here. You know, like clear shot is in the other. See, this is the problem. They say, oh, you need to split it up into separate files. And yeah, okay, yeah, it can be good to split your code up into separate files, but in some ways it's a blooming inconvenience. Now I have to change between, you know, one file and the next file, and then I can't find it because it's the wrong one. It's the wrong file. So I split them up, but nothing comes for free, you know. Everything has a cost. There we go. So, right, are we here? There's my clear shot function. So if I restore the clear shot function, let's just don't make any assumptions. I'm going to just sort of try again and see if indeed, hang on. It's just going on forever. Why is it going on forever? Are you not going to clear the shot? This could be a clue as well. You see, never make assumptions. That's really weird. NFT shirt. That's brilliant. Alan, you win the pun of the day. I need to do something with that. Pun of the day. Da, 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 thing, whatever. Have little animated things on the screen. You know, anything to distract from actually carrying on with the game, right? It's like, my brain is all over the place. Why is it all over the place today? Where are we going? I haven't even had any alcohol. So look, it stops. It goes and it stops. And what I'm trying to do is clear the shot. But if I say clear shot, it doesn't stop. And part of the reason is because clear shot is probably... Oh. X index of the sprite, shot XOR with screen. It destroys, clear shot destroys the X register. That's the problem. So what I'm going to do is just, it's lazy, but you know, look at this. Oh, I know what's wrong there. I don't have this in as in mode. As in mode. It makes me think of Asimov, but that's topical. Have you heard that Bing is now been threatening people? Someone said nasty things to Bing, and so Bing started threatening them. Apparently even threatening to dox them. It's like, wow, we shouldn't be afraid, should we? Could you imagine if a ChatGPT thing, style thing, had the power to send queries to APIs of websites? It's, you know, it's not, this isn't science fiction. It's like in the moment it'll talk to people, but what if it started talking to machines? They could just allow it to do that. And then it would start actually having a direct impact on the world. Like it could decide that it doesn't like someone and destroy their online identity. We're at that point where that would happen. And it's not because it's intelligent, it's just a program. It's like, it's not, it's what people don't understand is computer programs, they do things, they're automated machines. So if you give them the power to affect the world, they will affect the world according to some programming, right? I mean, the scary thing with AI is not the fact that the AI is AI. The fact is that it's like a computer program, but it's unpredictable. This is what people forget. We've had automations for a long time. Automated, you know, in the form of machines, mechanical automata. And we've got computers that run on programs that we write. And we go through a great deal of effort to ensure that our programs are predictable and robust and so on. And now we've invented a new kind of programming by luck. Nobody knows how a neural network works. I mean, they know how they behave, but when they're solving a particular problem or dealing with nobody knows. See, we're finding out. What happens if you put enough nodes together? We don't know. We're finding out. And certainly, you know, fixing a bug, you're retraining something that you can't open up to look at. It's like you can't, with normal programming, you can go and put the debugger in there and you can understand the steps. But when you're dealing with a neural network, it's not, there are no steps. So although, you know, many people are looking at this as the future of this, the future of that, and so on, it's basically handing programming over to luck. It's, you know, did they know that that this thing would start threatening people? Did they know that? I think we've got big problems. Yeah, Alan, we have really big problems here because we're turning computer systems engineering into a lottery. Sad, really. Skynet is born, yes. Yeah, it's inevitable. Anyway, enough about that. Do I have an favourite Italian soccer team? No. I don't have a favourite English soccer team either. I try to stay as far away from football as possible these days. Do you blame me? So this clear shot, it corrupts. That's where I was at. What I need to do is I need to back up the X register. So what I can do is transfer X to A, push, is it PHA? I can't remember. And then when we're done, we pull A and transfer A to X. Let's try that. There we go. And now, when I fire, it should disappear, but not start corrupting things. So there we go. It's not the most efficient of ways of doing it to use the stack to preserve a register, but to be honest, this is called like so infrequently, it's not worth bothering with. So I'd rather take the increased robustness of saving it on the stack. So okay, first bug of the session out of the way, and now I want to yes, this is teamwork. You all watch this lunatic doing their lunatic things, and you occasionally say things, and occasionally like and subscribe. I said it, and things like that, and that provides more fuel for the insane ramblings of someone who probably should have given up a long time ago. What ship fire count? So this is going to increase the ship fire count. Compare it with 2 branch of carry clear. I need to do these branch of carry clear and set. I'm a bit rusty with them, but basically to do them quickly anymore. So let's have a go here. It's branch of carry clear if it is negative, and it is negative if it is 0, 1 or 1, if it's 0 or 1. So when it's set, it resets it back to 0. And you know what? A good old debugging. I don't have a debugger, really. I mean, there is a debugger on this thing, but is there? I saw something on there as a debugger. Here, let's try the debugger. And it's like, you know, how do I set a breakpoint? I don't know. So I just closed it. You see, I hate debuggers. As soon as I start trying to use the debuggers, things go wrong. It's like, let me go and start up the atomulator again. So what I'm going to do is just write the value of that byte to the screen, and I can just see it. Need to make sure this is the right size. I think that will be all right like that. Okay. So so what that is I'll just do load a ship fire count, and then store a $8800, and we just see if that works, right, shall we? So when I died, I need to do a restart soon, so I don't have to restart the entire game. You see that little dot there, this one, that little tiny dot, that is a copy. So I can just debug this way, and it goes on and off, 0 1 0 1 0 1. It's not very exciting, but that will say which of the sprites I'm going to use to fire. That's the idea. So the ship fire count, it needs to then be transfer that to clear carry. Sorry, I'm umming and ahhing here because I need to do an add with carry immediate shots index so that I'm picking the first or the second shot. See, so that's 0 to 1 plus blah, like that. Right, clear carry flag, add with carry shot index, transfer A to X, and now I am using X as the index to the sprites. So here I have to do comma X and get rid of the shots index. Now, rather than do that manually with absolutely everything, will you please stop selecting text? Thank you. If I go here and I do space plus space shots index, and I'm going to replace this with comma X. Yes, yes, yes. Yes, 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 yes. Now, I hope I will have 2 shots. Let's check the chat. You are my rubber duckies. And, you know, in the famous words of the captain of the ship that brought the Golga Frinchums to planet Earth, you're never alone with a rubber duck. How do I predict likes and views on... What do you mean, how do I predict likes and views? I don't understand, Zag. How do I predict? You can't. It's impossible. Because, why? Why? Because the likes and views that I get on my videos are totally determined by an AI algorithm that either chooses to give my video some exposure or chooses not to, and that algorithm is something that nobody understands how it works. So there we are. I am at the mercy of the algorithm, as are we all. As are we all. Hang on, that's a bit Battlestar Galactica. No, that was So Say We All. Yeah. I'm sorry. Yeah. Right. Okay. Yeah. Oh no. We got all kinds of craziness happening here. Just things. Well, it's practically doing Conway's Game of Life. There's a kind of pattern here. And my X register is all over the place. I'll check the chat. Right. Do you believe in unit tests? Would they have been useful for developing Kickoff? Unit tests. Well, right, unit tests, they can be useful, but it depends. It's like there's actually not much that benefits from a unit test, to be honest. I mean, I don't know. In video game development, what would you unit test? I mean, if you're doing an algorithm for, I don't know, doing some vector mathematics, or you're doing some physics collisions, those are useful for those. Or if you need to do line clipping, I've done unit tests for things like that, but for a lot of stuff, that isn't where you need to put the testing effort. Most difficult tests are integration tests. So what you're actually doing is you're going, okay, I don't know, if you're doing a first-person shooter, it's like, can you shoot the enemy? And you set up a kind of test case and you see if you can shoot an enemy. But you're not doing, those are not unit tests. You're testing systems. So I'm not saying that they're not useful, but in video games, their usefulness is quite... It's a bit rare. It's like, how would I do a unit test here? On what? And because this is assembly programming, and that's a different thing entirely. So I could do a unit test, but the problem here is I'm corrupting memory. So then some test would fail. But the other problem, because you asked me about Kickoff, the other problem is, where would these unit tests run? I mean, in what memory? And on what system? You've got to think, if I'm writing Kickoff on a 68,000 on an Atari ST where I wrote it originally, it's a bit of a different world to the world today. It's not like I'm writing libraries that... No. So what would I? So I mean, in any case, a lot of the stuff is so fundamental that if they break, they, you know, they're tested by the things that use them. I'm not into unit tests unless they're actually specifically useful. I've sometimes seen that, you know, there's some people believe that we should make unit tests for absolutely everything. I'm going, why? You know, if you're doing a highly optimized version of something else that would otherwise be slower, yes, then you have a way of doing the testing. So for example, if there was like a line clipping algorithm and you have a slow line clipping algorithm that you know that works, but your next step is that you want to optimize it to make it go faster. And in that situation, you can do a comparison between the slow one and your one, and you want to make sure they behave exactly the same. And that lends itself well to doing your unit tests. Having said that, there were some parts of Goal that needed calibration. So what I would do is, you know, kick the ball from different places on the screen to a target at different distances, and it would read that in, do a kind of regression analysis on it to try and come up with, I would do that to come up with some kind of formula that would sort of enable shots on goal to be calculated in taking into account swerve and distance and angle. Yeah, I could see potentially usefulness there, and I've done that before. Obviously, you know, you're doing a square root routine, you want to do it a really fast square root routine. Well, nobody does these days. You just sort of use your floating point, standard floating point stuff. I don't know. Did they use unit tests in Unity 3D? They may have done unit tests in Unity 3D. It didn't save the fact that their normalize function is broken, because the unit test would be testing to the broken specification. I don't know. And then you get the problem of keeping it in sync. In the description of your recent uploads, what is? I think writing, maintaining unit tests would be too slow for games. Maybe in a reusable library. Yes, I'd agree with that. Reusable library components, I think they're invaluable. If you're doing APIs, you have some kind of service with an API, yes. So in those circumstances, I will. Test harness. So the process is, let's say you're doing, it's not a simple answer, right? Let's say you're doing a meta game that has many sub games. So I did this on, because I was the tech lead on a title for Vodafone called Vodafone Drive Safe. I was also more than a little influential on the design of it. But that game had a meta game and lots of sub games in it, and those sub games, well, the meta game, if you think about the meta game, you want to be able to test the meta game without playing all the sort of sub games, you know. So what you can do is create a test harness where you can drive the meta game and say, well, you play this particular, you know, game, and this was the result of it, or whatever. So if you have a good interface between these, you can create the meta game and a test harness for the meta game. The test harness allows you to operate the meta game by hand, but then the next step after that is to do automation. So as I come around to this question, is really testing. I don't think unit tests, as what people understand unit tests to be, are particularly useful, but writing code that tests your code in general, that is extremely useful, and I did that all the time. So for example, on Player Manager, in order to tune it, because I had to tune Player Manager. This was a huge point about Player Manager that maybe people don't think about. It didn't just sort of like, I didn't throw all the algorithms together and just hope for the best. I had to throw the algorithms in or craft them and then balance them and try to make sure that a whole system that had 1,000 football players, like 40 teams and a transfer market and playing matches that affected the revenue, that affected the ability, that affected the transfer market, had managers buying and selling players in the background. And all of this was a huge amount of tuning that needed to be done. And I certainly couldn't do that without automation. So now we're going all the way back to 1989 when I'm working on this. And my automation was run those algorithms in a test harness that is simulating normal play and logging all of the things that happen, all of the transactions, the decisions that the managers make, and all of this were all printed to a GP80 dot matrix printer. And it's the same printer that I have that listing that I said, right? The GP80 was a really crazy printer. It had one hammer and behind it was this thing that span that had ridges on it. And so it was the weirdest print head ever, very slow. But it would I'd just leave it running like overnight and it would be just printing the results out, you know, like Partick Thistle 3. You know, I've forgotten the Queen of the South 2, you know. It would just be doing that and I would go through and mark up with a pen anything that I found questionable and I'd use that to sort of tune. So is that, you know, how would I do it now? Now I would take all of that data generated by the system that I needed to tune. Corruption again. Oh, I know about, all right, yes, I have to just remembering what I'm doing here. I have to sort out I have to find why there's a corruption. What I would do now is I'd do the same thing, but all of the results, all of the transactions, everything that would happen would go into, can you guess, an SQL database. And then I'd be running queries on the SQL database to do an analysis on that data in order to figure out what to do and how to change the game. This is known as data science. So I was doing data science in 1989. On an Atari ST and a GP80 printer. There you go. I'm talking about all kinds of rubbish now. I better get back to this data science, eh? Apparently, data science is important. Who am I to argue? Right, so I don't like how this is behaving. Look at that. Look at that crawly thing. I've got a crawly thing going across the screen. Look at that. Isn't that weird? So this all happened because I tried to... Okay. I try to change which, I'm trying to create two shots. So what I will do is the decision of which shot I'm going to use next, I'm going to hardwire. I'm going to do LDA immediate 0 here. I'm just going to do that to remind myself to sort of take this out because that's temporary. Change for diagnostics. So what I'm doing is making sure that it's always going to use the first sprite, and then I'll see if I have any corruptions. We had a teleport. Did you see that? The ship teleported. I'm laughing, but really inside I'm crying. Hey, Greg. I knew someone called Greg Wells who was in Norway. So are you that Greg Wells who was in Norway, or some other Greg Wells? Maybe there was more than one Greg Wells. And you're in Australia now? So, question for you, Greg: have you ever? Did you live in Norway for a while? Oh, Greg. Okay, I thought that you were someone else. Of course, it might be that they have a different first name, and I forgot them. They were a teacher, or are a teacher in Norway. You've been watching me for years. All right. Well, hi, welcome. Thanks for saying hi. Good to see you. You've said nice things about my guitar playing on YouTube. So thank you for that. Nice things are nice. What terrible corruption did we have here? So, see, shots index. You know, I'm going to check how many shots do we have. Now, well, I only had one shot reserved, so that could have been the issue, but I don't think it was. We have a bit of a stability problem with the code base today. Shots index here. Transfer A to X, and now the sprite flags were right. This is the ship index. That's correct. I'm setting the position and the velocity of the ship of the shot. This is upsetting me a little bit because it really there's something else going on here, because I don't see how this would be causing an issue. So I'm doing again, I'm hardwiring now. I'm just saying load load X with, you know, the shot index, and I will try again and see what happens. Oh, Alessandro, I did that already, although it was on YouTube and Twitch. It was probably Twitch, I don't know. I already did that. Hey, I'm making the new kickoff. Look, I'm making the new kickoff. I'm doing it. I'm streaming it. Do you know, I had journalists actually saying that I was just cashing in and I wasn't really the developer of the game, even though I had been developing it in public every day, coding the game away. Go figure. Look, memory corruptions. If I do another kickoff, it's not going to. The only way that's going to happen is if I if I become a streamer, because that's where all the power is these days. If I was a successful streamer, I could make video games. It's true. It's true. You know, it's like we need to have a Venn diagram, right? Venn diagram of great streamers, which a great streamer is basically a streamer with a very big audience. So that's a great streamer. And then we can also then have a great game developer. And it's sort of like we need the industry needs the people in there in the middle between the two. It did this bit here. Now imagine this. Now imagine that for a minute. But it feels like that is something that's very difficult to achieve. It's a bit like saying, you know, let's have the merging of people who are extremely rich, but also really nice people. They must exist somewhere, but it seems like if you're really rich, it's like you're a Jeff Bezos or you're an Elon Musk or you're a... Or how about powerful politician that and honesty? It's like, could you be a powerful politician and also honest? If the world had more honest, powerful politicians, the world would be a better place. But I think sometimes it's just asking too much. It's not possible. You can't have a powerful, successful politician who's also honest. It doesn't seem like you can have a kind of very successful, rich business person who at the same time is a massively humanitarian. And I don't think you can ever have a really successful streamer. No. You know, if I... Oh boy, no, dear. Oh. If I were a rich man. I love that tune, don't you? But that's the dilemma. But so what I'm going to do is not worry about the other side of the Venn diagram. I'm just going to figure out why it is I've got memory corruption here in between reading the comments. At least you're trying with your TikTok shorts and all. Well, yeah, I'm trying. I did one of those as a whim, and then it got a bunch of views. The first one I did for the ACORN atom, and it was like the algorithm liked that. It went, oh, this is good. Let's push this. And it kept doing that until I did one that half of the audience hated it, so it only got 50% likes. And the algorithm looked at that response and went, oh no, oh, it turns out he's not the real deal after all. I'm sorry, you're going to have to leave that alone. And I didn't get any more after that. It's kind of weird. It's try to understand. But what I'm doing right now, I'm going to do a series of I Talk to the Wind. Oh, we're getting all distracted now. I don't care. It's like, you know, what is it? You only live once. Look, this, I Talk to the Wind. The solo at the end of that song by King Crimson. And I'm working on it. I've been working on it for some time. I'm getting close. So what I'm going to be doing with that, I did one today, is TikTok, YouTube Shorts for every bar in the tune. See? And it's useful for me, if nothing else, because then, you know, it's a good exercise. But then when there's a bar that's really difficult, I can practice it. You know, it's like it's not Yeah, you know, it's not easy. But that's a project. Never mind. Anyway, where was I? I'm just a page away. No one can have that many guitars. That's not that many. It looks like a lot of guitars, but I'm nearly 60. And I started playing guitar 40 years ago. You pick them up. You know, buy a guitar once every couple of years, you'll have 20 guitars. That one over there, I was 21 when I had that. So that one's my 20s. That's in my 20s. That is in my 40s. That one is in my 40s. That one is in my 40s. That one is my first guitar ever, steel strung guitar I ever owned. I was 18. 40s, 50s, 50s. Yeah. Anyway, where was I? You see, I do too. Someone says to me, people say to me sometimes, no, they don't. I'm making this up. Nobody says anything to me. They just avoid me. But this hypothetical person might say, you should concentrate only on one thing. And yeah, that's not me. I'm all over the place. Yes, that's it. You know, I sometimes say things like that. Alessandro Bezos, I bet he can't play the flute as well as I can. And I bet Musk can't play the flute as well as I can. And I bet Zuckerberg doesn't even know what a flute is. And, or he's forgotten. But most importantly all, what? Wait, oh, I did not develop Kickoff 2. I didn't develop Sensible World of Soccer, at least not directly. I better move on. Cell 102, why? I'm not going to sell them. Why would I sell them? They're my friends. They keep me company. In a different way. The way you keep me company. But yeah, you know, it's sort of like, that's one. I think to myself, Elon Musk, you might be the richest person in the world, maybe this week, or a few weeks ago, whenever it was, right? But I bet you can't write a song. I bet you can't write a catchy tune. It's all one-upmanship, yeah. You smashed up a guitar. Okay, well, you know, I never forgave Quentin Tarantino for what happened with that guitar. Anyway, right, so where was I? I still have a memory corruption. How am I going to find out this memory corruption thing? We are going to go to the return. I'm going to basically just, it checks for the fire pressed and then it returns. I've got nothing really else to do, and then I'm going to fire, and nothing's going to happen. I'm going to make sure that there are no corruptions. So this is a bit mind-numbing, but at least if it doesn't go wrong, then I have some reality. I know something makes sense. It makes sense that code that doesn't execute is not causing a crash. No, it's not. Okay, so that's fine. So we just move from there to the next thing where we start bringing in more code. And I'm not even bothering to try and figure it out and say, oh, you know, this couldn't possibly be the problem, eh? Really? Couldn't really be the problem? If I could see the problem, it wouldn't be a problem. So here we're again shooting the non-existent thing, and it's not, I think that test is good enough. So at this point, if we come down to load X, load A sprites, store A sprites flags. All right, so this is clearing an enable, a disable, sorry, it's clearing the disable flag of the first shot. RTS. Smashing and lighting the fire to it. Am I? Oh! What? Oh no, that's good. What's happening? What's happening is that I enabled the sprite on the shot. So the sprite appeared and it's just set up however it happened to be set up. Yes, yes, I see what you mean, Greg. Exactly. So this actually makes sense. So right now it makes sense. This is what we want. We want things to make sense. I highly recommend this technique for debugging any code, by the way. It's when things don't make sense, move to a place or try to organize it in such a way that something makes sense. And often the best way of doing that is to simplify. So, you know, you could go on and take ages, but, you know, well, if every time you compile and run, you have to wait half an hour, you might not be good, but I don't have that problem here. It's a huge advantage to have a fast development cycle, probably the biggest advantage that you can give yourself. So that's not a problem. Now what I'm doing here is loading the X coordinate of the ship. I clear the carry flag, I add with carry 4, and then I store it in the X coordinate of the shot sprite. I think I can test this out. But what I'd expect to have happen now is that when I fire the X, it should start firing from the X coordinate of the ship. And in fact, you can see that it is. And this makes sense, so that's good. And you carry on like this until something doesn't make sense, and then you're narrowing in on your problem. Jimi Hendrix makes sense. Yes, he does. The ineffable wonder of Jimi Hendrix. What made Jimi Hendrix such a fantastic guitar player? A lot of practice. No, there was something. In the end, all great musicians, what happens with them is that somehow they're able to convey themselves through their music. So if you want to know what it would have been like to be in the presence of Jimi Hendrix, to meet Jimi Hendrix, you know from his music, because his music is Jimi Hendrix. The same thing is true of Miles Davis. Miles Davis is such a great musician because every note that he played was Miles Davis. It's the way it is. It's where you put your whole being into the music. And this is true of all art. Dare I say, even my kickoff. If you want to know who I am, it's there. It's encoded in kickoff. Because I created that game in very much the same way as an artist that is expressing themselves does it, because it wasn't like you think it wasn't like someone came up to me and said, "Hey, you're a bit of a nerd, aren't you? You know about these computer things. I've got this idea for a football game." It was more a case of Anil Gupta said, "Football games aren't very good, so make me a football game." And so I suppose it was like that. But no, the point is this. The point is this. I wasn't given any money to do it. That's the point. It wasn't that, look, here's some money and I'm in charge because I'm paying you and you're going to make a game for me and it's going to be like this. I made the game I wanted to make. He wanted a football game, so I made a football game, but I did it my way. Right? So therefore it's representative of me as a person. And I would argue that's why it had something good about it. And if you look at anything that is made that is like that, that is the common theme. You take a great film, take Stanley Kubrick movies, right? You kind of know who Stanley Kubrick was because of his movies. Same thing. I'm not comparing myself to Stanley Kubrick, by the way. The algorithm did something then. I see it on the thing here. See, the algorithm was going, oh, looks like something might be cooking up on this sort of random, strange channel over here. Let's just give it a little go. And so the algorithm went and shared this channel with a bunch of people. And so that spiked up to like 46, and then it went straight back down again. There's a few people remaining for a minute. That's the way the algorithm, I think, works. It just goes around and says, oh, we'll just try this. It tries something out. And if it doesn't meet a certain percentage, it will just give up. So that's interesting. Anyway, I'm going all over the place. Let me check with the chat. Let's see. Where was it? Not practice, originality. Well, yeah, so what I was saying is actually sincerity. I will say sincerity. Whatever you say about the music of Jimi Hendrix, it was very sincere. Same thing. It's true of Miles Davis. And it was natural. Yes, that's true. It's true. It's like talent. Some people have a natural talent to express themselves through a medium. I don't know. Yeah. He's a very slow and sloppy guitar player otherwise. I think it was the style. I mean, you could argue that. You could, I suppose. I'm the Jimi Hendrix of coding. Well, you certainly know how to sweet talk me. To watch out, because my ego might grow. And then I'll need to sort of widen the screen. What do you mean you give me whose number? Whatever. Okay, a few people hung on for a bit and then it went, yeah. So your algorithm, you didn't do a very good job. You really didn't do a very good job at all of finding my audience. Sorry, I know you're going to blame me and say that I just suck, but you really didn't do a great job. I didn't know which number that was. And now the annoying thing is because I had this great big spike up there, which went up to 50, by the way, and now we're back down to 4. That's depressing. Maybe the algorithm just does this to depress people. It's like, you know, he's having too much fun. He's laughing and he's joking and he's saying irreverent things. So let's just sort of bump his viewing figures up to 50 and then have them all leave. Hilarious. I'm actually worse off than I was before. Don't watch the numbers. I tried not watching the numbers. I did. And then I realised the numbers were watching me. So what can you do? Be like Jimmy. Be like me. I don't want to be like Jimmy. I'm going to be like me. So, worse off, yes. Worse off, is that well-known football game. Right. Because it's all just a game, you know. Sprites weigh at H plus ship index. So now we're doing the Y calculation, and then we store it. And then we'll try again. I'm just a fool. I have a genius, maybe, but I wouldn't call myself a genius. There's, for some reason, there's a, the Greeks and I think the Romans as well, they didn't call people geniuses. What they did was they said the genius was the thing that sort of hung around in the room, in the studio of the artist, giving the artist their ideas. It's a very healthy way of thinking about it. I don't own anything I do. It's much, maybe legal sense, yes, but not in any other sense. Because the thing is that the worst thing that can happen to anybody is to become successful in many things. I mean, maybe not in everything, but if you're an artist, let's say you're a writer and you write a successful book, it's the worst thing that can happen. If you're a game developer and you write a successful game, the worst thing that can happen. I know it sounds a bit weird, but what I mean by that, hear me out, right? I'll explain. That when we do things that we do them out of love. For example, if you're a musician, you play music out of love for the music. Then you have a success. Then what happens? Are you going to be playing the music for the love of the music after you've been successful? Think about it. It is harder to continue to have the love for the thing once it becomes successful. And in a way, that's the price of success. So this story is so old. You think of all the people who were like pop stars, they had a successful song, you know. What might happen then at that point? They might think, oh, I'm the real deal. They might even think I'm a genius, or they might think I have a genius. You know, they might think that it was them. I did that. But it's kind of all meaningless. Didn't do anything. Maybe you got lucky. Maybe there was some dedication involved. I think that is important. But in the end, most people who do something out of love, once they become successful, they're not doing it out of love anymore. And so then you say, why? Why do it? Why do it if you don't love it? And that problem is the reason why people who have a success often end up miserable, which is also well documented and understood. And you know it happens all the time. And sometimes the worst thing that can happen. I should not have died on the letter either. The worst thing that can happen is that you have a success. Yeah, money at the root of all evil? Possibly. It certainly seems to be a medium in which evil grows, right? Well, the thing is that the ones that you say, the ones that love you are always the ones that hurt the most, but that's only because of attachment, only of expectation. It's, if you want to truly enjoy something, you need to have no expectations. It's the expectations that spoil things. This is true with success, is when you have a success, then you have the expectation of the next thing you do being also a success. That expectation spoils the joy of doing the thing, whatever it is. But that's also true of people. If you have expectations, you shouldn't have expectations of people. It's not the same thing as not caring. It's not the same thing as not trusting. Expectation is something else. Yeah, exactly. You have to stay in the now. That's it. Dimitri, hi. Oh, you're welcome. Thank you. Yeah, I'm trying to reconnect with my love of programming at a deep level, because this is how I started off. And when I was like 15 something, I was writing this game. And I certainly didn't do it because it was a job. And I certainly didn't do it because I was successful. I did it out of the love of doing it. So I've still got a crash. No, it's not crashing. And then what I do is I set the velocity. So that's take the ship direction, arithmetic shift left, because I need to multiply it by 2, transfer A to X. Oh, it's right there. I was looking at it. It was right in front of my nose all the time. I've seen the problem. I think it might be one of those cases of too much talking. It's good to talk about these things a bit. I'm actually a bit upset now. That's not your fault. But all this thinking about success and the meaning of success and the consequences of success. No, don't apologise. It's not your fault. It's just that it's good. It's good to think it through and to face it, because one carries it with one all the time. I carry my story with me. Whether I'm thinking about it or not, I'm still carrying it. Still, you have to own it. But to sort of deal with it from time to time, it's good to think about it. And part of it is realizing that it's expectations. You can't have expectations out of life either. It's like when I had a successful video game, I had an expectation that the industry might treat me with a bit of respect. No, bad idea. Or, that it would open doors. No, expectation. When I did Kickoff Revival, I did it with the expectation that, you know, there would be fans that would sort of be into what I was doing, or as into it as I was. No, not true. Expectation kills everything. Cut expectation out of your life and you will be happier. And it's not a nihilist sort of thing. It's the one of let it come to you, don't chase it. And good things have come to me in my life. But I find that the less I try to force things, the less I try to insist on things, the less I try to impose my will on things, the better it goes. Anyway, right, so I found the problem with all of this thing, because, yeah, the problem, what was it? The problem is that I start using the X register for a different purpose. It's in this here, where I take the ship direction. And what I want to do is use the Y register instead. I was using it for two different purposes. So we load with the Y, and I store it in the X. Load with the Y, store in the X. Load in Y, store in X. I use two index registers. Store in the X. And that was the problem. I think I can see, despite all of that, I got there. You know how? How did it happen? How could I figure that out? How could I figure that out while all of the ranting and the heartache and the thing about success and all the rest of it and all this crap? And it's thought, why? Because subconscious does it. Just trust that your brain will figure it out. Let's see. Oh, oh, look at that, how I figured it out. I seem to have a kind of sidestep motion here with the thing. All right, okay, I figured it out. No, I didn't. Let's have another look. What is going on? Ship fire count, blah, 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 blah. Sprites, flags. Yeah. Yeah. Store it. Store it. Okay. Ship direction, multiply by 2, transfer it to Y, load the direction. I had to multiply them by 2 because I wanted to make the shot go faster than the ship. So load Y, where did I set Y up? Maybe I didn't set Y up. I thought I did. Yeah, here, right, yeah, transfer A to Y. Right, so we do that, arithmetic shift left, store it in X. Where did I set X up? Did I set X up? I think I deleted that by mistake. I did. Okay, it's fine, that's the problem. I accidentally undid the... Yep, clear carry, add with carry, immediate, shots index. Okay, so X was just flapping around in all over the place. Happy Sunday, everyone. Oh, right, yeah, because you're in Australia. Oh. There's still... What's wrong now? Okay, so that really should have fixed that problem. So let's just put an RTS in here. No. Well, if Mike shows up, then there'll be 3 in Australia. In the audience. Now, I don't get this. Why is it moving? Right, it'll be doing that because X is wrong. Oh, I forgot to transfer it. Transfer A to X. Sorry. Bit overloaded brain. Right. Let's try this again. Yeah, that's annoying. I'm not getting a very good responsiveness from pressing the fire button, and this is a problem with the emulator. Oh. I keep pressing that button, it doesn't always fire. Yeah. Does not fire. Does fire. Does not fire. Does fire. Oh, that's because it's every other shot only fires because I have 2 shots and the second shot is not enabled yet. Let's try that again. So I've just made it so that it will fire every time. Okay, that's the problem. It was. So what I wanted to make sure is that I've got no more corruption. No, it's Emacs is my editor. Emacs is my editor, and the emulator is Atomulator. So there's a wonderful talk on TED. I will find the name of the person. I can never remember their name, though I talk about her talk a lot. She wrote the book Eat, Pray, Love, and on the topic of genius. That is, it's a really good talk. And if anybody did not understand what I've been trying to blather on about, it's Elizabeth Gilbert. Just trying to get a link. So Elizabeth Gilbert muses on the impossible things we expect from artists and geniuses and shares the radical idea. I don't know if it's that radical since it's been around since the time of the Greeks, that instead of the rare person being a genius, all of us have a genius. It's down to the idea of, you know, you need to show up. Eckhart Tolle, the idea of the, you know, the power is now and the living in the moment thing. I didn't read, I don't think I ended up reading the whole book, but I did start the book. I read a chunk of it. So we talk two different topics. I'll come to Eckhart Tolle in a minute, but Elizabeth Gilbert wrote this book, Eat, Pray, Love. And then having written the book, Eat, Pray, Love, was faced with the point that no matter how much she might write books ever again, she will never, ever be, whatever she does will never be as good as Eat, Pray, Love, whatever good actually sort of means. And this is where there's this point that it's very healthy to separate yourself from the work that you do. So that's what I mean when I say that I'm separating myself from the success that Kickoff had. And I don't want to focus it on, I don't want to think about, terms as genius. If you've watched the video, you'll understand. But the idea was that by separating, because the Greeks and so on, people back in that time, they're actually a lot wiser in some ways than we are now. They knew the danger of people thinking that they produce genius. That is, that they do something that can be labeled genius and that elevates them in some way, right? Because what it does is it puts unreasonable expectations on that person. And it can lead to really terrible consequences, which we can see in people everywhere who were successful and then suffered afterwards. So he tells the story in there, and I think it's great, about, I think it was Tom Waits, and he was driving down in his car, and this tune came into it to his head. And I know what that's like. So when you come up with a tune, for me it's playing the guitar. Sometimes a tune will come out and I just have to record it, otherwise it will be lost forever, or not. Maybe I don't have a means to record it. Anyway, he's driving the car and one of these things knocks on the on his head, it takes his attention, and he's got no way of dealing with it. He's driving the car, he can't deal with it, and he was feeling sort of stressed by the fact that he couldn't respond to the thing. And this is what she relates the story of, his story. And he said, just looked up to the sky and said, "Can't you see I'm busy? I don't have time to deal with you right now. Can you go and find Leonard Cohen or something and just, And this is the thing, it's like, treat it as though it's something separate from you. And then you only have one job. If this is what you do in life, is this your purpose in life, is to manifest these kinds of things, whatever they are. Your job, if you want to have that job, your job is just to show up for work. You want to make a new game. Sorry, for me, I've tried, but it doesn't matter. Forget games. Somebody wants to write a book. Somebody wants to go into a studio and record a great song. Whatever it is, it doesn't matter. All you can do is get up every day and show up for flipping work. You do it. You write. If you're a writer, you write. You don't judge it. You don't over-criticize what you do. You don't tug at your heart and say, this is rubbish. I'll never have that success again, or whatever it is. You don't. Forget all of that. It's all bullshit. The only thing you can do is show up for work. And if the genius doesn't show up as well, that's the genius's fault. At least you showed up for work. And it's a really healthy way of thinking about it, because the thing that you're looking for, those magical moments, songwriter comes up with something like, you know, David Bowie coming up with a Space Oddity, you know, which I think is it's an amazing song. It's like he didn't plan that. He just showed up to work, and a genius showed up as well, and that was the result. And if you don't show up for work, it isn't going to happen. But if you do show up for work, it's no guarantee. There's never any guarantee. And you can't have the expectations. If you have the expectations, it will ruin it. If you start saying you can't demand the genius to come, it won't come. If you do that, it'll run away. It will knock on your door when it's not convenient. You cannot impose yourself upon it. And nor can you think that just because one day it was your friend, it's never your friend. It's a transaction. But just because that happened, that, you know, tomorrow it will do your bidding. It won't. And this comes back to the core of it all. What you need to do is do what you love to do. Just do what you love to do, and anything else that happens, if it's meant to be, it'll happen. If it doesn't happen, don't worry, because you do it because you love to do it. I loved programming, and I still do enjoy programming, and it's a very good way to earn a living, frankly, you know. You know, we should all try and seek to do the things that we love to do. And that's it. Anyway, I recommend you watch that video if you want to see more about it. So, about that topic. Hey Vincent, how you doing? It took you 5 attempts to subscribe. Yeah, well, I think that algorithm hates me, frankly. Should I ask? At some point, some AI will be able to ask the AI of the algorithm. We'll be able to talk to the algorithm on YouTube. Hello, dear algorithm on YouTube. It's the story of Santa. You know, you write. Children will write their letters for what they want for Christmas to Santa, wouldn't they? You know. Santa doesn't exist, but the algorithm does, and that's our future. We'll be writing letters to the algorithm, and children will be doing that too, and adults will be doing that, and they'll be watching what they're doing because they need to be good men and women, boys and girls, don't they? If they want to get what they want. The Queen's voice. Who is this? David Bowie. If you're doing what you love, and that's just all you can do, and it should be enough. Should be enough. Anyway, where were we? I think I fixed the shots, didn't I? Let me just see. Here. No. It's so hard. I'm not saying it's easy. It's the hardest thing. I mean, I am a human being. Do I have an ego? Yes. Of course I have an ego. We all do. My ego issues, though, are not so much driven from some kind of sense of superiority. In my case, it's from a sense of needing to prove myself all the time. That's my biggest weakness. Always have to prove myself. You might say, well, what on earth do you have to prove? Or it's a form of, imposter syndrome. But in my, not because it's complicated. Can I get the J? Let's get the J. Boom. Yes. This, I think, is working reliably now. What the but a whole thing I was trying to do is make 2 shots. Oh no, I hate it when I'm faster than the... See, the way I get this to work is it has to send key presses over to the emulator. If I move too quickly, it starts putting those key presses in the source code. I do have to prove myself. I find myself having to prove myself. It's funny. It's funny that it you know, and I do wonder how much of this is my own fault. But I often find myself... It's complicated. As a child, I was always not understood. You know, as an example, a teacher went and said to my parents, well, there's something wrong with Dino. It was a common thing. Something wrong with Dino. He just makes meaningless squiggles in his book instead of presumably what it was that I was supposed to. My father looked at the meaningless squiggles and said, do you know what these are? They're electronic circuit diagrams. I tell this story so you can understand why it is I have a need to prove myself. Because that kind of thing is what... that's part of what made me who I am, right down to the core. My motivation to do amazing things with technology was in part driven by the desire not to be treated like I was a complete idiot. Is this making sense now? And then the nature of human beings being what it is, we tend to manifest the very thing often that we are trying to avoid. Or is one of my, you know, I do like Kung Fu Panda, and I'm about to quote Kung Fu Panda. You know, one often meets one's destiny on the road one takes to avoid it. That's a line from Master Oogway. And that's the case for me. The thing is that it's like the self-fulfilling prophecy. I sense, in a sense, that's the true meaning of the word karma. It's, you know, karma is, everyone thinks about karma as being like punishment for, or retribution or reward, and it is none of those things. What karma actually is it translates to doing. It's one's doing. It's like what one does, and it becomes part of you. And where the you end and the rest of the world begins, it becomes an interesting question, right? So where does this weird thing begin or end? Does it begin with everybody else, or does it begin with me? And in fact, it's, in the end, logically, when you think about it long enough, you come to the conclusion that you have to own it. So it comes from you. There's absolutely no point in complaining and saying, oh, people don't understand me. It is my composition. It is my tune. It is what I created, for good or ill. That's it. And so I have to always prove myself. And that isn't going to change. So I hope that made some sense. I was never understood. Or yeah, well, it can certainly feel like nobody cares sometimes. But the thing is, the assumption that nobody cares, it's a... Well, I don't know your situation, Greg. It's easy to say it. But I can, from what I've observed of people, it's pretty common for people to manifest the things that really happen to them without even realizing it. I'm not applying this to you or anybody in particular. I'm just saying I've seen it. So therefore it is something that one always needs to be aware of. It's like, to what extent... I'm going to try and turn on 2 shots now. That seems reliable. It all comes down to how much responsibility one takes for one's own life. Exactly, it's owning it. And I came to the conclusion eventually that you have to own it all. If you don't own it, who's going to own it? Nobody's going to own it for you. So I have to own the success, but I have to also own the failure. And, who am I proving? I need to prove something. But to who? Who do I need to prove anything to? In the end, I need to prove it to me. And I have 2 shots. There are 2 shots. All right. This is getting there. Yeah, I have to prove it to me. It can be a bit tricky, all that, though, because in the end, then you are in danger of, as one is trying to figure this out, the attraction of solipsism sort of starts to present itself. The idea that you are the only one. The idea of solipsism is that every individual, there is only one individual. That one's you. And everything else is just your imagination. It's actually a fairly meaningless idea in a sense that it doesn't matter. It doesn't... People go and say, oh, that sounds scary, but it really doesn't matter. What does it matter? But it can be helpful. It certainly can't be proved one way or the other. That's the point. But right, there is something wrong here. The shots last forever, and they shouldn't last forever. I'm going to have to fix that. But what was I saying? Right, solipsism. But solipsism can be helpful for trying to refocus your attention to the idea that you need to own what happens to you. And sometimes saying you've got to own what happens to you can feel unfair. I mean, you say, well, how can I own this that happened to me? But I've thought long and hard about that one. And the conclusion I came to there is that you don't have to, but it's wise to own everything that happens to you, because that is the most likely way that you will be able to achieve happiness in the long run. Because when you don't own the things that happen to you, you're giving up the control that you have over your own life to something outside of you. And logically, I don't see how that could ever work. So you've got a choice. It's like, do you own it and therefore retain the possibility? This is the thing, the possibility of control. The possibility that you can control your own destiny. Or do you choose the other way, which is to blame everything outside yourself, when in doing so you give up completely any hope of being able to change your destiny. That's the choice. It's got nothing to do whether it's fair or not, and I'm not saying there aren't people who end up in situations where things happen outside of their control. Unfortunately, that happens. The point is, if you have to make the choice between the two, there's only one that can actually help you. So the wise thing to do is to make the choice that you choose. You choose to own it. And not easy. It's not easy at all. But I'm working on it. I think I'm getting better at it. Well, if you can say you went with your heart, your body will follow. Don't bog down in the past. Lead with your heart and bear the consequences. Well, yes, it's a bit like that, you're saying. Or I would say with your whole self. And actually beyond the heart, there is not just with your whole self, but with the whole of you and your environment. It's like you are not in isolation of your environment. You are part of your environment, and your environment is part of you. You know? So, but anyway, I should probably... 2 shots. Problem is that they keep flying forever, so I still have a bug here. I fire 2 shots. Oh, they disappeared. Right, okay, that's very interesting. I fire 2 shots and they disappear. Why did the shots not disappear anymore? What are you hacking? Yeah, that time it didn't work. It didn't go wrong. So maybe it's something weird like firing a shot while refueling. Oh, no, it didn't like that either. I have some nasty little bugs in this thing already. I know that sometimes... Yeah. That was a good refuel. Oh. I tried to refuel. And... Okay. I think the reason those shots go on forever could be because the ship got destroyed while a shot was on screen. It's possible. So the way to test this is fire a couple of shots and crash. No. Yeah, that's what I thought, but that isn't it either. See? That worked. That didn't do anything. That worked without a problem. I really need to fix these issues before I try to build the next part of the game. Aha! So I think I have a way of recreating the problem. What I need to do is fire So we go around like this and we fire shots, and then while firing shots, I try to refuel. Oh, no, let's try that again. If I refuel on letter A, it's a bit crowded there, hang on. So this is interesting because it might help me understand why I seem to have an occasional failure to refuel and blow up the ship. But if I blow up the letter A collision, some interaction with the shots though, because if I just go refueling, see, that was fine, refueled. See, that bar at the top that's getting shorter is fuel. So before it runs out, I have to pick up the next letter. This is the heart of the game. And you get that E. It's quite intricate. Yeah, I got the E. But, and then the letters get faster. As there are fewer letters. Let's do I. Collected them all. And then they're going to be enemy letters that will try to shoot you. You will shoot, they're not here yet. There will be the enemies will come. There'll be Greek letters. I have to do them yet. Now, I did A. I'm going to try doing B, but I'm going to try to shoot while refueling. Oh no, I didn't shoot. I hit the wrong button. Let's try this again. Every time I'm shooting and I try and refuel, I crash with the letter A. The question is, does it do the same with the letter B? So let me pick up the letter A, and now I'm coming up to, look at that. That also happened with letter B. And off they go. So I can quite, this is good. I can quite reliably generate the problem. The problematic situation of the nation. So, the question is how? Well, what I could do is disable the draw of the sprite. I have a draw shots, this draw shots routine. I should be able to disable draw shots without it affecting anything else in the game. So I'm going to try and do that. And obviously this means that I'm not seeing any shots, but they are operating internally, and then no problem. Which is what I suspected. I'm shooting the invisible shots, and the problem has to do with collision detection. Yeah, they will collide with the letters, so that letters can get in the way when you're trying to shoot the enemies. Yeah. Yeah, shooting is just H. Oh, G comes before H. Okay, what the problem is that the collision detection system I know what it is. I know what it is. It's got to do with the collision system. It's thinking that the check for whether you're colliding with the right letter is also checking to see if you're hitting a shot, and then you're hitting your own shot, which it checks to see if it's the right letter, and it isn't, and therefore it fails. The problem should be connected with next letter, which is this here. Check if right letter. This loop is, oh, num letters. That was a great theory, but it's only going through the letters. Yeah, the shots should be for the Greek letters. I wonder if I can shoot myself. I'm going to try it, because I'm wondering whether it's just shoot. No, it wouldn't be shooting itself. Yeah, all right. We found it. Check if right letter. Okay, next thing I know what to do. I'm able to see the shots again. Assumption. The ship is being destroyed because it was the wrong letter. So this is the check here. Checks right there if it's the right letter that I've done. So I'm going to remove that check and we'll see if it will die. Now I can just go in with impunity and just clear them up, whatever, you know, in any order. And do that in any order. Do I die? So it's clear that the problem, I don't, you see, so it's clear that the problem is uh-oh. I think that's a bug that's caused by me not removing the letters in the correct order. So I'm going to just ignore that. No, it was inspired by the game Asteroids. That's why it's called Letteroids. So but because I didn't know how to make the ship move, because I hadn't invented a fixed point for myself. I'm using fixed point in this implementation, but the original game didn't have fixed point. Because I didn't know how to do it. So what we have is, it thinks it's the wrong letter. Now, how could it think it was the wrong letter? I mean, I've got a loop here that checks from only the letters. I thought it was also checking with the shots, which makes sense, that we detect a collision with a shot. One of the things that we could do is to help with the old debugging is, I'll turn that back on. Check if the right letter. I transfer the letter to A, but I can also store the current letter that I collided with. Oh, let it think it. the letter that I think I collided with, or the sprite I think I collided with, I can write the index of that to screen memory for debugging purposes. This should help. Hey Greg, yes, thank you for dropping by. It was a pleasure talking to you. What's the name? What's the name of your pug, if I may? Moby. That's a good name for a pug. Say hi to Moby for me. Have a good Moby the Wonder Dog. Do you remember that Australian TV series Flipper? I don't know why that came to mind. Anyway, have a good weekend, or good Sunday. As it's Sunday now, yeah. Oh, very nice. Oh, and Skippy. It wasn't just Flipper, there was Skippy. Skippy the bush kangaroo. It's all flooding back now. Come on, A. 1, B, C. You can see that dot, D. Wait a minute. A is 0. B is 1. C is 2. It's wrong. It's on the... That's one bit only. Interesting. Nice stuff. Never been to Australia. But I remember the Australian TV programs that, as a kid, I used to watch as a kid. All right. Have a good day, Greg, and thanks again. So it looks to me like, let me try that test again. It looks to me like there's sometimes there is a problem. Well, like I just hit A, which is 0, B, which is 1. Okay, no, that's fair. C, which is, no, I didn't hit C. It should move slightly. Oh, come on, hit the C. C, D. See, that time it worked. E. F. O. Could it be? It checks to see if... Oh, right. It checks to see if there's a collision on the ship. If it detects a collision on the ship, It then starts with the top letter and works backwards and downwards through the different letters. Looking for one that is in bounds. Okay, well, I can see by reading those, actually to help read those, the index, I can also do load a immediate $55, which are alternating bit pattern, store that in 8820. So then I've got a little guide for the bits. So if I hit, say, H, we can see there that it's 7. Bottom 3 is 0, 0, 0, 0, 1, 1, 1. There are 3 bits set. Just right here. So that's great. So what I'll do is try to recreate that bug where I'm refueling while shooting, and we can see that it seemed to collide with 0. Oh, that's why. Got it. What's actually happening is that when it does the refuel, well, it detects a collision with a ship because there's a disturbance on the screen in the plotting of the ship using exclusive OR. When it detects that, it goes through the letters, checking if any, which one is in bounds. And the one it finds in bounds, it says that's the letter that you collided with. However, if there's a shot on the screen as well, what actually happens is that after the erasure of the A, where it can't collide on the A anymore because that sprite was disabled, it collides with its own bullet. And colliding with its own bullet, it then checks and it collides with A again, even though A is not really there, because it checks for a letter even if the letter has been disabled. That's the problem. So what I need to do is in the loop, I'll just get rid of that diagnostic thing a minute. To go to the next letter is .hc2. So up here I need to test. I need to test if the letter has been disabled. So I do load a sprites flags, X, and I have to AND it with 8, which is bit 3. If this is set, it means the sprite is disabled. So branch if not equal .hc2. Do not check if letter disabled, and that should get rid of that bug. Let's try that. La la la. I'm waiting for the letter A to come off the top of the, appear on the top of the screen. Here it comes. Ooh. And now that bug has gone away. Nice. Then I think we're in a pretty good position. This could possibly explain why I had some occasional, yeah, it would. You see, sometimes you end up fixing a bug. Eventually, just give it time. You don't always have to solve that particular bug immediately. For some reason, I said, I'm not going to try and figure out that occasional misfire when refueling. That is, I was having the problem that sometimes I would refuel and it would fail. It would blow the ship up. I now know why, but I didn't know then. But something had the gut feeling it was better off just to leave it for now. And it was exactly the right thing to do, because now this will have fixed that too. What was the problem? The problem was that if I refuel, say with this B, you can't see it anymore, but it was still checking for it for collisions with other letters. So if it happened to be a situation where I refueled over the point where previously I had refueled, so that there was an invisible letter in effect back behind that, and on a boundary condition, it's not necessarily a given that the first sprite within the bounds will be the one that you just collided with, right? It could be that it just wasn't quite in the bounding box, but it was in the bounding box for the previous letter that had been disabled, but for the check is still being checked, because that was the issue. So it required a very specific set of circumstances. You basically try to refuel over a location on the screen where a previous letter was, and it just so happens it registers with the invisible letter first, and then it's not a proper refuel and you blow up. So for not something that would happen very often, but that's it. That fix has probably fixed that too, which means that we're almost completely bug free right now, as far as I can see, which is good. I'm going to give it a go, and that means we are almost at the time for bringing on the Greek letters. If I can put the Greek letters in, then we're left with the scores and tuning, and then I've recreated the original game. F, G, let's get G, H, yeah, everything seems to be behaving itself now. Yep, that's not bad. Time for some Greek letters then. Problem is I need to design them. The other ones I did in my imagination, but can I do Greek letters in my imagination? That's a bit harder. I'll have to design them first. Or we'll use ASCII text. That's good enough. Let's see, if I switch this to the... I'm using a menu that you can't see. So, let's do the Greek letter alpha. Oh, come on, what you doing? I think I've got a stuck shift key, modifier key. Right, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So we're going to build up our alpha letter. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. It's hardly square, is it? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. There we go. Maybe that. It's like a fish. What's the name of this game? I am Alpha. Oh, the irony. Right. The Greek letters are not, it's like doing lowercase letters, they're a bit tricky. And I've only got 1 pixel left there, so maybe I need to sort of bring this in a little earlier. And we can go from here to there, and original graphics that I had for these letters, original bitmaps, are lost forever. I've only got the bitmaps for the Astro Warrior version, where they didn't like letters. Is that, how's that for an alpha? Maybe if I bring them back a little bit more. Oh, that will do. I could make it double thickness, but I'm going to leave it like that. So what's the bit pattern for this? Well, a minute. Oh, flipping heck. Get that thing where I can't type anything in correctly in here at all for some reason. Right. Text mode. In here, please. Why did it do that? Text mode. That's better. Right. So, so this will be 0, 0. This is also 0, 0. This one is 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. So I can see the top and bottom nibbles properly. That one is 3, 1. This one is 4, 8. This one is 8, 4. This one is 4, 8. And that one is 3, 1 again, because it's symmetrical, and this one is 0, 0. So those are the bit patterns I need to put in, and they're going to go in somewhere in here. So we had A, B, C, D, 8, 10, and then F, E, F, E. Right, then we have a bunch of ships. So 60, how many is that in total? I have 10 letters and 16 ships. So that means a total of 26, which leaves me with 6 sprites spare, and I need 4 of them, so I'm okay with that. I'll put the 4 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. I can't remember where I put them. One, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. I need to look at what these sprites actually are a minute, because I don't get it. I don't remember what sprites I made, and I'm looking at the pattern, doesn't quite make sense. So what I'm going to try and do is change in the table here. Where is it? Here, yes. The sprites image, I can just change the number of these. So the letter A, if I put 1 in here, I'll end up with 2 letter B's. As you can see, one of those is the original letter B, the other one was originally a letter A. So if I get to 10 here, this should be the first one that's not a letter, and that's the first direction of the ship. 11 is blank. 12 is blank. 13 also blank. 14 blank again. At some point 15 16. All right, 16 is the first true ship. The other ship that we saw was an original one that I did before I decided to use 16 sprites. So number 17 should be the first, should be the ship turned about 30 degrees. And there it is. So the first one that's free for me to use is actually number 10. Which is this guy here. This will be my alpha, so I know where to put it now. I'll just check that. I had to check it that way because I have no way of seeing the data otherwise. So right, these are both FE because they are I and J. We'll put these in. This one is 0, 0 on there. The next byte down, 0, 0 again. And then we have 31. Then 48. Then 84. Oh no, not there. 48. And here 84. And then 48. And then 31. And finally 0. And so if I change the sprite index now to 10 temporarily, just to see if it worked, we should have an alpha letter. There was an attempt at an alpha. There's a mistake in the bit pattern. Yeah, this one is wrong. I said it was 48. It's not 48, it's 4A. To port Atom games to the Beeb in general, probably not that difficult. I mean, I could do a Beeb version of this game for sure. I never did in the end. I should have done, I suppose. I did I did a game called Astro Tracker for the Beeb that was more like asteroids. So that's what the alpha would look like. And I could do the beta and the gamma and the delta, but I'm not going to do that right now. I'm just going to do the alpha. And we start doing the enemy, and then have the enemy shooting at the ship. And that will be the thing to do next, I think. Oh. Ow. I need to see a physiotherapist. My shoulder. Poor thing. Poor shoulder. Didn't help when I strained it playing the flute. It's like hours and hours like this. And like, ah. That's a good point, though. I suppose I could also start doing. I have some BBC micros, so could actually do the similar thing with the BBC micros. Well, I think I'm about done for this stream. We've got what have we achieved this stream? We have the creation of the first alpha. Sorry, the first Greek letter enemy sprite, but I haven't got the logic for it yet. We've got bug fixes, which have fixed the refueling bug that's been around for a while, and then also the shooting bugs that I had, and we have 2 shots. So we're doing pretty well. What's left is to get the enemies going, which there's 4 different kinds, and then the scoring system. I'll have to create digits for the scores and put them on the top, and then we'll need to have the enemies being able to come in, their movement, the shooting at you, and then the different levels of the game, because of each wave that comes in needs to be subsequently more difficult, and then tuning, and then maybe we should put in an attract mode and a little bit of dressing, and then test it on the original hardware, and then I can release it to the ACORN Atom community. It's probably not going to take that long at this rate, because it's coming along pretty fast. And then after that, I can start thinking about Lettoroids 2. Hope you're enjoying this series, but I'm going to go now. Thanks, Alan. Anybody else who's still on the stream, see you soon. Take care. Where's that thing gone? Oh, yes.